Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon.
I'm put on the positive side, right? Focus, take whatever it is you're making right now, and I'm telling you, we will see a completely different world, all right? Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon. This really doesn't look like dinner. Come on, somebody. Come on, so we're going to do really confident that we already know.
I can do some things to supplement what the education system is not providing.
Teammates, first and foremost, if this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you already know what it's all about, how I get down right into it. And before I even talk about today's subject, just let me put a reminder out there. If you are either a high school or collegiate athlete and you're interested in doing an NIL deal, or you're interested in working with someone that can help you find the correct college and put you in the right situation, make sure you contact me at moveswiftly44@gmail.com or go to makeyourmove.com. That's makeymove.com. Hit the tab that says lifetime earnings and fill out the questionnaire. Put your information out in there, and we will get you on the right track. We'll do some things, and we have some resources for you in which we can answer all your questions and all that kind of stuff. All right, so make sure you do that if you are either a current or either a collegiate athlete or a high school athlete, or you want a parent of a collegiate or a high school athlete and you're interested in more information. Make sure you contact me. All right. Excuse me. As far as today's topic, here's what we're going to talk about today. Today we are going to discuss the difference between hating an individual or hating on an individual, whether you call it this person hates you or you hate this person or you're hating on this person, versus simply accepting that this is the way the person is and moving forward in a professional, cordial way, civil way, in a responsible way, in a way that's mature. All right. Say it again, just so we're clear on what we're discussing today. We are discussing the difference between hating an individual, hating who an individual is, hating on an individual, whatever way you want to dress it up, just the word hate in general, versus accepting a person and accepting that this is what a person's all about and moving forward. All right. And by the end of today's episode, the goal for today's episode, I'll say it like this, the goal for today's episode is for you to walk away from this episode understanding that you need to be moving in a direction where you are accepting people for who they are and moving forward. Because if you stay stuck in this rut, there's a growth process here. Initially, yes, you're going to hate the way a certain thing is. You'll go to someone and you might ask them to do something and they don't want to do it, or they're not the person that you thought they were. And you may hate that fact. When you can grow to the point in which you simply accept it, then you don't have to walk around with this toxic energy. You don't have to walk around worried about certain things not working out. You don't have to worry about certain people who are going to stab you in the back or anything like that. You can simply just fucking accept the person for who they are and do what you need to do to keep moving forward. Do what you need to do to keep working and keep grinding. All right. To give you some context, here's what got me on today's subject. Like I told you, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. I teach at a center named the Center for Creative Education, and about 2 weeks, the episode probably debuted about 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where I spoke about where it was a meeting we had, and there were some things that were said in the meeting, but they weren't said. There were things that were said in the meeting by myself, but the other people in the meeting didn't say anything. Yet after the meeting was over, they go and they run their fucking mouth about this and that and all that kind of stuff. So there's still a lot of blowback from that meeting. It was just a horrible thing. But the long story short, there's a specific teacher who was in this meeting who's no longer speaking to me. No longer speaking to me. I'm recording this after the new year. Didn't wish me Happy New Year. Didn't say Merry Christmas. Nothing like that. We are no longer speaking at all. In fact, because of that, I just decided I was going to unfollow her on social media and all that kind of shit. So there's a situation with myself again and another teacher that now we don't talk now there. And the crazy part about the whole thing is I know she talks about me because I know that, like, well, that's what pissed me off initially, but now she won't say a word directly to me. And it's interesting that I'm doing this. It's interesting that it happened between me and her, because what there was actually another situation in which there was another coworker who told her to go home, or some kind of something happened in which she had to go home because she was sick or whatever, and she was upset at that colleague. And the only thing I knew is I got in the next morning, and this particular individual went up to her. He tapped her on the shoulder and said good morning, and she didn't say good morning back. She looked at me and just said, "Hey, how you doing?" as one, and just completely ignored the guy, which was, again, that was a red flag on my end, because I even asked her at that point. I was like, "Oh, so you're one of those petty type girls?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty petty." And now I'm experiencing the same thing. Only difference with me is I don't really give a fuck at this point. I can give a shit if she talks to me or she doesn't talk to me. I've moved on, and it was when she said that I actually was able to grow to simply accept that that's the kind of person that you are. I don't hate the person. I just simply accept it and move on. And that is the goal. And that's what I want to get you guys to get through today. All right. So let's just break down the situation a little more. All right. Here's what you have to understand. All right. When you hate a person, or when you are hating on a person, that is something that is going to weigh you down. That's going to be something that weighs you down. All right. So we'll even use her as an example. I'll even use a couple other examples. So I'm not, it's not like I'm beating or bashing her, berating her too much. All right. What she didn't like about what I said in this meeting was there was a particular student who was a handful, and there's been talk about kicking her out of the school. She might be on the spectrum. We don't know because she's so young. There hasn't been a true diagnosis, but there has been, she's a really intense when she gets into her tantrums and all that kind of stuff, right? And what got said in the meeting, what kind of got said and mentioned, was that, oh, we could just kick her out the school. I offered some pushback on that. And then again, instead of her addressing it in the meeting, she waited until the meeting was over and decided to talk behind my back. And then I kind of overheard her talking about the situation. Then she actually grew some fucking balls and actually said it to me because I overheard it. She goes, "Oh, what were you thinking, saying we don't kick the girl out?" And then we started to get into a back and forth. And long story short is she hated the fact that I would suggest that we actually utilize the resources that we have. We actually do something for this young girl, and not or for this young girl and her mother, who drops her off and picks her up from the school every day, pay her tuition to come to the school. She hated the fact that I would offer a pushback to say, let's figure out a way to keep her in the school, since first of all, we don't have that many kids as it is. The numbers aren't where they need to be. And also, we need to creatively come. We're called the motherfucking Center for Creative Education. And we as adults can't come up with a creative solution to keep the kid in school. Are you serious? All right. So she hated the fact that I brought that up. But she hated the fact that I would suggest that we keep a kid in instead of kicking her out. Long story short, right? Now, that hate, that anger, that upset, that is eventually something that holds a person back, because you don't see things from the bigger picture. You don't see the whole perspective and how people really live through, and what a mother has to go through, a single mother that has to go through to get her daughter, and her, not only she has a younger daughter too that's younger than her, and she's in first grade. So to get her two daughters to come to the school, pick them up, to how inconvenient it is for a mother to have to do that, and then to come and get the news that one day I'm just going to kick my kid out. That's something that you want to avoid at as much as possible. So she doesn't see that. So I see that. Again, I've been around the business a little longer than her. I done had some conversations with some single mothers. I done been in situations where mothers are, jumping from hotel to hotel, trying to figure out how they're going to raise their kids and all that kind of stuff. So to just kick a person out. I have that perspective that she doesn't. If she simply accepted the fact that I see things a little different, then there would be a way for us to actually have conversation. There would be an acceptance to say, okay, Mr. Aswan has that perspective. That's his mindset, and I'm going to accept it, even though I may not agree. We may come to a place where we just agree to disagree or whatever. There could still be a level of professionalism if she had the mindset of, okay, I'm going to accept the person for who she is, or who Aswan is. All right. The same way I simply just accept the fact that she's a petty little bitch, then I don't really have a problem not talking to her, because in my out of her own mouth, she said I'm petty. Like, out of her own mouth, she simply said I'm petty when she was dealing with the situation with the other guy. So I don't necessarily have a desire to have a relationship with her. But my point is, the reason I don't have that desire, and the reason I can move forward in a cordial way, is because I'm not hating on her. I'm accepting the fact that's who she is. That's who she has already told or proclaimed herself to be with her own mouth. That's who she is. All right. These are the things that you have to consider. And I'll give you a few more examples. There's several examples that we have to address here, because if you go around, and I want to make sure I'm on record saying this. I may have said it already, but I want to make sure I'm on the record of saying this even after I give you that example. If you go around in this world where there are 8 billion people in this world, if you go around simply saying that you hate so and so and you hate this person, and you're not growing to simply accept the person, you don't have a chance. You don't have a chance at any level of. You don't have a chance of even being good. You don't even have a chance of having any ounce of a rewarding life, because the minute something happens in which breaches your comfort zone, you're out the door. You're blocking this one. You're moving on from this one. You have no chance of actually growing and building any meaningful relationships in your life if you don't start figuring out, how can I accept this person and not hate the fact that this person is like that. You have to grasp that concept. You have to understand that there is a difference between hating a person and accepting a person. Actually, I'll give you another example. It was when I was in high school. All right, I had the same girlfriend from basically for 4 years. So all 4 years of high school, we were together for my entire high school journey. All right, and it took me 2 years, close to a year and a half, trying to convince this girl to actually like me, and that actually turned out to be what I enjoyed most about, to be honest with you. Out of the 4 years I was with her, I enjoyed the actual chasing her the most, because when I actually did get her and I actually did get to know her, things got boring really, really quick. All right. Even when she actually said yes and all that kind of stuff, it still felt very flawed. It still felt like it was too easy, and I kind of lost interest over the years. And I'm telling you, the only regret I do have in that relationship is I didn't end things sooner than I actually did. All right, that's just me being 100% honest with you. But let's break down why I'm able to come on this show now, why this happened 20 years ago, why I'm able to now say 20 years later, why I'm able to accept it the way I'm able to accept it, is because there's a lot of growth and development that happened between, now I'm 35 now, from when I was 15. A lot of growth and development and experiences happened over the past 20 years. Obviously, I've grown and developed and learned certain things, and how certain people are put together and how people develop their mindsets and all that stuff. We as kids, babies, don't come into this world just already having an opinion, already having a mindset, already having a philosophy about themselves. All that shit is inherited. All that shit is like an effect that they have. It's the parents, the way they're raised, the way a person's raised, is why they develop the mindset that they have. All right. And when I started to accept that, the strain and the pain from that relationship, and the amount of energy that I put into that relationship, all that stuff just started to get lifted once I accepted certain things about this particular girl. All right. This is very applicable because a lot of you who are listening to me now, especially the young college athletes or the parents of these college athletes, the people that are going with relationships, newly married kind of folks, the business owners that are trying to build relationships, professional relationships for their business. Everything in life is relationships. Everything in life is very relational. All right. Every transaction you make, there was some sort of a relationship that was able to make it so that transaction was made, or people are buying things because of relationship that they're hoping to get. Relationships is kind of interjected into everything we do. And if you don't understand the difference between hating and accepting, you're fucked from the beginning. You're already fundamentally in a place where you're not going to you're not going to see a very fulfilling relationship. All right. So this is what happened. This is what I had to accept about my ex-girlfriend, the girlfriend that I was with for the longest relationship I've ever actually been in, to be honest with you. Everything else was like flings and hookups and college stuff. And again, we won't even that'll take me down a different road. But this has been the longest actual relationship that I've actually been in to this day. And the situation, what I hated about this girl was the fact that there was no real, at least in my opinion, there was no real drive. There was no real push to get better. There was never anything in which there was never, and she was never willing to grow. We'll say it like this. You're listening to someone who, played football from 7 years old all the way to 23. And this football gave me my identity. Football is how I got my acceptance in school. Football was everything to me. It was everything to me. And you're talking about my girl, who couldn't tell you the difference between a guard in football and a point guard in basketball. She just couldn't do it. Now I get it. Granted, it may not be a thing, but if you know that you're with someone, you would take the time to learn certain things about the game. You would, obviously make an effort to just improve or get better. That's just my opinion. And I can remember this girl being, I mean, again, football, I can remember her being at maybe one or two games in my entire life, my entire high school career. So these are the things I'm talking about. And these are the red flags and the things that I wasn't willing to accept. Like had I been thinking the way I'm thinking now, then I would have easily, I would have broke up with her, seeing that she couldn't even make my games. Or that would have been enough of a reason for me to break up with this girl and move on. But again, I was a high school kid. I like some titties. I like, easy access to ass. She's giving up some booty. She's giving up some ass and titties, and shit. Any young high school male is gonna accept that and say, look, that's the trade-off. If she's giving up some ass, fuck it. So, that was my mindset back then. It's the wrong mindset. This is why I come on here and I speak to young kids now and explain to them, look, I'm with you. I was there, but the way this is what I tell a lot of young high school boys, all right, and girls. But this is what I tell them. Here's the way sex ends: is it does just that. It's over. All right, it's over. It's the same way you brush your teeth. I use the analogies like the same way you brush your teeth every single morning. You're gonna brush your teeth. You're gonna have kind of this refreshing feeling in your mouth, and then 2 seconds later, it's gonna be over. That's all sex really is. And when you've done it enough, if you've done it to the point in which it feels like you're brushing your teeth or you're tying your shoe, it's bad. That's a bad, very unfulfilling life. And that's what it became. That's what it started to become for me and this girl that I'm referring to. All right. So again, I could hate her for all these things. I could hate her for not learning about the game or not having a desire and interest, or not taking the initiative to just learn certain things about the game, or never actually ask me how things were going, or just like pretty much not want to do anything but have sex. Again, that may sound good to a high school kid, but as a grown adult, as someone that has to talk to you, it's like there's really no connection between us, right? I could hate her for being like that, or I could simply accept her. And these are the things that I have to, first of all, I had to accept about myself. I had to learn about myself. And then I was able to accept accept these things about her, forgive her, wish nothing but the best for her, and I'm able to move forward fully. I'm able to give myself fully to someone who deserves me, someone who I want specifically, be specifically with a person that I want, not just simply a person that I'm infatuated with or is just letting me tap that ass or is making it easy for me to fuck. All right. Which is basically what it became after a while. All right. Here's the things I was able to accept about her. Understand, well, first of all, I'll start with me and then I'll get to her. Understand, with me, I in a culture, in a society in which most young black men grow up without a father in the household. Not only did I have a great father in the household, I had just incredible coaches. I had a mother who was almost in situations just as even more influential than my father. I had an older sister who was very influential in my life, who would introduce me to our high school friends, whether they were male or female. I had football coaches that were up my ass. I mean, like father figure type football coaches. I had four uncles. My sister had four. I mean, my my mother had four brothers, so I had four uncles. I had a ton of male influences in my life. There were so many, to the point where I was one of those young black kids where I hear all these stories about absentee fathers, and I would hear all these narratives about how black men aren't there for their fathers. And I would never, I mean, growing up, I would never understand that. I would never resonate with that because, again, I had so many male influences in my life, so much structure when it came to the male influences of my life, to the point where it became too much. It got to be too much. If you keep up with my work, or if you've been following me for a long time, you realize you probably say to yourself, "Oh my God, this guy puts out too much stuff. There's too much information." Like that's how much that's how much. And it's just really a reflection of how many male influences I actually had in my life growing up. It really is just a reflection of that. Now, my ex, she grew up without a father in the household. She grew up with two women in her house. They were both single women. She grew up with a single mother, and it wasn't that. Well, here's what it really happened. She grew up. Her mother. It was her mother and her sister. So there's three women in the household. There's a single mother, and both of these girls had different fathers. This is how fucking messy it was. All right. Her father, my ex-girlfriend's father, was raising a family in New York, and then the sister of my ex, had a different father who was, I don't even know, I don't even think was around. It wasn't in the picture. Long story short, it was a mother who had two daughters. Like, and that's the thing. I wasn't thinking like this when I was in high school. I was just thinking, look, mom's is working, which means when mom's goes to work, I go to work. When mom's goes to work, that means my girl is gonna be home by herself, and you already know what time it is. You know how I'm getting down now, and that was like music to my ears. But you know, uh, I wasn't thinking like, okay, the reason that this girl is making things so easy for you is because she is looking to fill a void. She just doesn't want to be single. She just wants to find someone, anyone. She'll take anyone with a dick and balls that is going to have her and be in this relationship with her, so she doesn't have to deal with the reality of why, or deal with the reality of being single, because being single to her is frightening. Being single to her is scary. Being single to her is like the equivalent of death, because she sees a mother the same way you just broke it down. She sees a mother that is raising a family, is raising two girls with different daddies, and none of the daddies are actually in the home. So, again, her whole mindset. So when I accepted that about this girl, I again wish her nothing of the best, but you're not for me. It's not that I hate the person. It's not that I hate my ex. It's that I accepted who my ex was. And that's why I'm able to move forward in the way I'm able to move forward. That's why I'm able to give talks and give speeches and talk to the younger kids now about what's really happening and how to really develop these relationships and what you really need to do, the kind of self-discovery that you need to have in yourself, and not put that responsibility on somebody else, right? What the problem is, she's putting the responsibility of, she's putting the void that she's needing in her life, the void that's needing to be filled in her life. She's making Aswand responsible for it by letting me be her man. When again, I was not the boyfriend. I mean, I get I'm a catch and all that, but we barely saw each other. I was so glued into football stuff. I actually cheated on her a few times. And there was one time I told her this is how desperate she was to actually have a boyfriend. There was a time in which I told her directly. I made it a point to tell her I cheated on her with another girl. And the next day, she lets me in the house and we end up having like it was quote unquote great when I was a high school kid, but now as a 35-year-old man that has a niece that's 14 now, I look at that's bad, man. That's pathetic. How the hell are you gonna have your man tells you he cheats on you, and then the next day you let him in the house and really don't punish him? And again, that's not because Aswand was just some great guy or just like, oh my god, he's so incredible. That's not the reality, even though I am, by the way, ladies. But the reality is the fact that she was so desperate to not be single that there was nothing she can do, and that's a very, very ugly place to be. And these are the realities of the situation when you fall into this habit, when you fall into this road of hating on a person versus accepting a person. The quicker you can accept the person, the quicker you can move on and start to get things done with your own life. So the quicker, if she would have been able to accept the fact that, look, Aswan's not the guy for me, I'm going to end things now so I can open myself up to the possibility of meeting someone that's better, then things would have worked out. But that's not what she did. All right. It was as one myself, I personally had to end things because what happened was I tore my ACL, and this was the first time that I was out of football, and I saw the difference that football was making in my life, and I couldn't even at that point I couldn't even pretend. I couldn't even pretend to like it. I always say, had I still been playing football and had I not torn my ACL and had to go without a season, there's a strong possibility that we could have stayed together and things could have worked. I could have kind of gritted my teeth because the game would have been in my life, and the game that teaches me teamwork, that allows me to bond with coaches, and gives me the identity that I've had growing up. It allowed me to kind of ignore certain things about her. But when I tore my ACL at 19, I realized, okay, that was like my reality check moment. And again, something that seemed like a curse was actually a blessing, because it opened my eyes to a lot of different things. It was probably felt like one of the worst things that could happen to me became one of the best things that could happen to me, because my life would have been a completely different. I would not be the speaker. I would not have this drive. I would not do a lot of the things that I'm doing now. I just wouldn't have it had I not gotten that perspective from that specific year. All right. So that's very, very important that you grasp that as well. But the point is, as I close you out, the point is, there are going to be some, this is the best way to say, and the best thing that you should be taken away from everything I'm talking about today. There are going to be some things about every single person that you meet. There's not one person that you meet that is not going to do something that you hate. You're going to hate something every individual does. There's no individual that's perfect. All right. You're going to hate something that they does. You may hate the actual person. You may hate the situation. You may hate whatever it is. The quicker that you can go from hate to accepting that what that person is the better decision that you're going to make on this person. And even if you want to take it to a professional round, there was a previous employer that I had. His name was Ira, at 9 Round Kickboxing and Fitness. All right. There are many things where, I mean, there's probably people who listen to this podcast regularly that hear me talk about Ira that would come under the assumption that I hated Ira. No, that's not the case. I accepted that's who Ira was. And because I accepted who he was, and well, I'll just kind of give you a briefing of the story if you don't know. But Ira was a gym owner, and it was a boxing gym. And, when you're in a boxing gym like that, I personally love marketing. I personally love going out, meeting people. I personally love setting up events, doing things at games and all that stuff. So I was working for the Miami Dolphins Foundation that was already set up. There's so many things that we could have been doing to connect and collaborate this 9-round gym with the traffic of youth sports, youth football. I mean, I wrote an entire book about how boxing and youth football and other sports connect. Like, that was me. I was trying to get in front of more people, and Ira would sit on his computer all day looking at bodybuilding. The only marketing he would actually do was take a sign out in the middle of the road and hold the 9-round sign up for maybe about 30 minutes or an hour a day or whatever it is. And that was all the marketing he did. So again, do I hate him for not doing it? No, I just accepted that he's not a marketing guy. And because that is the reality, I had to move on and be in a situation where I'm getting in front of more people. I'm able to get my product and get my services and get the things that I'm doing in front of more people. You have to accept that that's who that man is and just keep moving. But you don't have to hate the person, and you don't have to be an asshole about it. Again, the quicker you can accept it, the quicker you can move on. But if you sit around and you like this girl that I referred to at the beginning, who decides that she doesn't even have the decency to tell me good morning anymore, or doesn't have the fucking decency to wish me a happy new year because of something I said in a meeting about not letting the fact that she would take the hate to that point, that's a person who is again, me personally, I don't want to deal with anyway, but that's a person who is already, there's fundamental things that are wrong there, and you can't grow when you actually hate an individual, when you hate a person to that level where they're taking you out of your comfort zone. You see them, you get quiet, you lose that energy, you don't have the decency to tell the person good morning and all the stuff that you would normally do. When a person has that kind of power over you, you give them power. Actually, they don't have you give them the power. In fact, you give them the power that they don't actually deserve, and that's on you. So as you listen to this show, because you're listening to this specific episode, I am telling you, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, get out of this. There's people coming in your mind right now as I'm talking. There's an individual, probably 10 to 15 people that you've probably thought of throughout this entire episode. I'm telling you, get to a place. This is me specifically talking to you now. Get to a place in which you just simply accept them. The same feeling, you're going to have the same feelings about an individual. Like there are probably hateful feelings I have towards my ex. There are probably hateful feelings I have towards Ira, but that doesn't mean I hate them. What it means is I've accepted who they are. I may hate the fact that that's the way they are, but that has nothing to do with my ability to be professional, or my ability to move forward and make better decisions with the things I do professionally, make better decisions with the things I do relationally. Because I accepted them, it gives me the ability, all right? And that's what I want you guys to understand. Because I accepted that's who the person is and not hate on the person. Yes, they're hateful feelings. I can't stand that this person did this, and I might get fired up when I talk about certain situations. Trust me, it's gonna happen. But I accepted that that's who the person is, and I'm able to now have the ability to make better decisions about what I do as I move forward. And that's my goal for you. That's my real goal for you, is that when you move yourself from hating a person or hating on a situation, and you accept the situation, gives you ability. All right, it gives you the ability to move forward and make a better decision tomorrow. And that's what it's all about. Can you make the better decision tomorrow? Listen, I've heard it said like this, and I'll drop the mic with this because I love this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. All right, pull your pens out, mental note this, do whatever you have to do. I don't even know who said it. I think it was like anonymous, unknown person that said it. It's kind of a general thing, but it is: life can be summed up in 3 words. It goes on. All right, let's say it again, nice and slow. I'll officially close you out with that one. Life can be summed up in 3 words, 3 short words. It goes on. All right. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.